Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our MarkLogic community event, July 2023. We're pleased to have all of you here today with us. Without further ado, I will crack on. So, you may have already seen this if you followed us on Twitter or LinkedIn or elsewhere. We've gone from MarkLogic to MarkLogic, Progress MarkLogic, and we've gone through many changes in the meantime and a lot of innovation. We're excited to see what comes next. But for now, let's talk about what we're going to see at the community event. So every month, we're here to make sure that we share with you the latest features, interesting functionality, product demos, potential use cases, as well as the direction that we're taking the product in. We want to hear from you, so please do use the chat. We want to know what products you're focusing on, what challenges you're facing, what's the value that you're getting from MarkLogic, and what advice you could offer to others. And feel free to start a conversation. Do you see something that you would like in one of these demos to use within your business to solve your challenges? Or address new opportunities. We're interested in hearing from our experts in our community, as well as our product partners. And we've had some really good success with both of those, with some really positive feedback. Every month, we'll be running these meetings. The recordings will be available. We'll make sure that we give you the handout with the notes from the session, as well as links to the key speakers' time slots. We hope to kick off in-person events potentially later on in the year, maybe into next. And these are a mix of technical and business. So, they're open to everyone. We need your input. And I would like to say thank you so much to all of the speakers. We're already lining up content for our community right up until November, December time. But we still would love to hear from you. We want to hear about your real-world implementations of MarkLogic. We want to share with your success stories, the challenges that you addressed, and how that changed your business. We want to know how long you want these sessions to last, what content you'd like to cover. Is there a topic that you'd really love to hear from the community about? Let us know. And please, please, please do ask questions in the chat. We love to cover those in the Q&A at the end. Last month, we had from our partner community, Datavid, demoing Datavid Rover. So thank you very much to that team. It was a really impressive demo about the power of bringing MarkLogic and Semaphore together to power ingestion, orchestration, and developing semantic applications on top of that. It was really successful. Somebody straight away after the event reached out to Datavid wanting to learn more. So we're really thankful for Datavid with that demo. And then Mitch Shepard, one of our product managers, looking at the developer experience, demoed our new Spark connector and the MLXPRS, our extension to VS Code. Mitch really wants to hear from the community. He would love to hear about the products and services you're connecting MarkLogic to and how we can improve that experience for you. So if you've got any suggestions or comments, please do let us know in the chat or send a quick email to csm@marklogic.com. So for today, we've got two great sessions lined up. First off, we've got Clever Llamas with David Ennis and Moritz Fiedman. Clever Llamas, they're going to be discussing their learning and development services that can accelerate anyone's understanding of MarkLogic. They have produced some really good content. If you follow them on LinkedIn, there's some great articles about some of the key features in MarkLogic, including those new to MarkLogic 11, how to use these things. But they go deeper with the services that they offer to their clients, and we're really pleased to share that with you today. And then from our partner and customer community, we've got ESI Laboratory, ESI Labs. We've got their co-CEO, Michael Will, who's going to be demonstrating how ESI Labs acquires, aggregates, searches, and queries structured, semi-structured, and unstructured content from various different sources to evaluate the risk profile of investment managers. And we think that there is a real synergy across a number of different verticals in Michael's presentation and the other services that he offers. So we're really pleased to see that. So please do ask questions. We've got a Q&A at the end of our session. We'll have a quick poll beforehand, as well as giving you a preview of next month's event, as well as a special event we're running in September. So without further ado, I'd like to invite David and Moritz onto the front of stage. David, Moritz, if you could join us, that would be great. Hi there, David.
Hello, welcome.
Brilliant. Right, well, I will hand over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen, and thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
I think we'll just do a couple quick introductions. Mark, you want to start?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Hello, my name is Maurits Veeman. I'm together with David. I'm part of Clever Llamas, co-founder of the company. And for today's purpose, well, I'll hand it off to you, David, since you're going to be doing most of the presentation.
Absolutely, thanks. I'm just also starting the screen sharing. Do you see the screen?
Yep, and I think you're on the last slide.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. There's the highlight. I have no idea how to do these things. Slide 1. There we go. It looks the same, I think, to me. Okay. Thank you very much, Marts. We're going to go ahead and start here and just go through a few things that was already talked about from Philip already. A couple of things. I'm from Boston and I talk fast. I promise I will slow down for this presentation. And as my wife always says to me, why bother saying in 3 words what you can say in 100? I will also take that into account today and make this presentation at a pace and volume that's that people are comfortable with. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this and just go through straightforward about who we are. So about us, and in this case here, well, we're MarkLogic experts. We're sort of dedicated in helping others become successful in MarkLogic. That's pretty much what we're doing. It's not anything but trying to help with success on your MarkLogic implementations. And you might wonder why. Well, the why is actually we want to build a larger ecosystem around that, and why such a belief in MarkLogic, the technology itself. It's actually from the over a decade of using it at this point, where if you go back to the early years with MarkLogic and you have things like the search applications and the universal index and all of that. And almost every major release of MarkLogic, they've added some really impressive features that meet different business needs. You had document library services, CPF. At some point, they added temporal. Then the triple indexes came out in 7, and support for JSON, JavaScript, geospatial features, and then optics. So every couple of years, the software helps answer more questions, helps solve more problems. And that's actually why I'm still sort of sticking with it throughout all of this time. Building the bigger community helps the software become stronger, and because we believe in it, I think that's a good thing. Now, how do we do this? There's 3 parts to that. The first part is enlighten. That's the community-related things. Last year, when we set up this company, we had the idea that we would actually go and start building community portals and things of that sort. And having talked directly to MarkLogic, through the changes and that was going through the companies as there was a merger and a purchase, we decided to hold off on that, and we started to continue to help on the enlighten side by writing articles and things of that sort, and holding off and seeing how things shaped up and contributing to things like today. So on that side there, we're waiting to see how things shape up within MarkLogic's effort for community, because it should only be one sort of book of record, one place to go for things, but we still participate on that, just different than we were in last year. We also offer, from the empowerment side, specialized services, which we'll get into later on. These services are very targeted, again, on the idea of success. And the last part would be on the educate, the flexible training, which we'll get into shortly on that side there. So you might wonder who our target audience is. Well, it's everyone in a way. There's individuals that we help on a regular basis, organizations using MarkLogic. as well as partners. And in the terms of partners, to be clear, or not just partners MarkLogic, but any company helping others integrate MarkLogic. And it's important to understand in that respect that we're not competing, we're complementary. We're not trying to take over full projects. We're trying to take the deep knowledge that we have, the years of experience we have, and spread that further. You do that by sharing it, not by trying to take everything into yourself and internalize it. So on the partner side, it's very much complement. If I looked at what we're doing now, about half of our hours are directly for organizations, and half of the hours that we're working on are actually our business to business. Before moving forward, a little bit on the target audience is also to say an expectation on the global footprint. In general, most of what we do, it doesn't matter where we are. Most of it is online related. It's possible to be on site, but going on site doesn't allow us to spread quite as far as we should. And if you look at time zones, so right now, although I'm from the US, I'm actually in Europe right now. If you look at time zones out of GMT, if you go further east, +7 or so, or further west, -8, you can still cover that. And it just means that some things are in the afternoon on one area. And say that as far as Japan, you'd be more overlap in the afternoon. California would be early in the morning for those in California. We'd make something work. Hawaii is the most difficult because it's actually 12 hours away. It's the other side of the world. So global reach, with some caveats. Of course, we're willing to work anywhere with anyone. Understanding time zones have some limitations on that. Now, on the services side, how do we help? The specialized services, in general, the service engagements are meant to be short. They're meant to help you solve a problem. If you were to go to go and look at some of the stuff we do, it's really meant to solve problems. And that doesn't mean that the engagement, although meant to be very specific in what they are, they can be ongoing and continuing. Helping with architecture over time, helping keep the team going over time. The individual engagements may be short, but the relationship is meant to be longer. And that's been proven over time. I'm going to quickly go through some of these service highlights on this side here, and that is just to go over a few of them. Some of the ideas is kickstart development. You might have a team, but you need to just get that project going, get it going in best practice ways, get the team up and running, and then let it continue on its own. Delivering a proof of value. You now have the product in place, and the first thing you need to do is prove to those that within your organization the value in that, and so maybe getting you up and started on a project right away. I mentioned these already, sort of some of the items which are the specialist services and the support side of it. And then we have building and growing teams. That would be the skills building side of things and staff conversion. This in MarkLogic I find very important along this line. You may, as an organization, have staff that are perfectly acceptable for working on MarkLogic projects, but there's a big difference from what you have now in MarkLogic. It doesn't mean you have the wrong staff. You just might find the right way to convert them, convert who you have and support them in certain ways. You also might be a service provider who has an opportunity to support one of your existing clients with MarkLogic, and you've got some great people, and you're just missing that gap to get them ready to help support a MarkLogic project. So the building and growing teams is ongoing support, but also converting existing people to become viable and successful within MarkLogic. I apologize, my timer wasn't running first, so I don't think I've been on long. Mark, can you tell me about how long that was so I can continue? About 6 minutes, roughly.
You got plenty of time, David. No worries.
All right.
You're good.
Well, because according to my clock, I only spend a minute and 14 minutes a second. So here we go. So now we're going to go onto the training side. So we just talked about staff conversion and supporting that. Separate from that is the major part of what we put a lot of effort into, a lot of research, a lot of work in the last almost year, actually, considering I started this endeavor with March on the training side last July or August. We are here almost around a year later where we are on this. So the training method. So not everyone learns the same way. Not everyone needs to learn the same thing. We'll talk about it later on. And also, bluntly put, not everything needs to be learned up front. And not everything needs to be learned by everyone. So if you go to some trainings, you have an 8-hour presentation / training. Well, that's good. You can get a knowledge transfer in that time of a specific amount of stuff. If you break that training over a couple of days, you can learn quite a bit more. Our approach, though, again, success, knowledge transfer, spreading the information we have further, building the community, our approach is very different. It's designed to take it to another level and really help you to absorb and apply what you've been learning through the training sessions. So on your screen now, you see what's called course modules. That's just for lack of a better word, really, but it's small, succinct topics. Right now, it's a fluid list. We change the list as we see, as needed, but we definitely have the idea that our modules are split into categories like overviews, trying to figure out maybe decision makers. What would you use? Would you use this type of approach? You want to use that type of approach? Fast track, really get to learn something fast enough to use it immediately, and end the sessions with enough knowledge to apply and use that particular feature or set of features. Or deep dive, that really goes into the details, really understand under the hood why something works the way it does and how it was implemented, so you can actually use it on a much deeper level. Something that could be clear is that we take this, and we decided early on in this, we teach to your needs. It doesn't really matter if you're using JSON or XML or JavaScript or XQuery. Any of the topics that we have where it makes sense, we're willing and able to teach them in either language or a combination of them. And the last thing on this part is that the perfect purpose of these modules is to blend and teach what you need. We have repeatable content, and a lot of the modules, as I call them, have overlap, but the end result is meant to be an a la carte syllabus, basically exactly what your team needs for your purpose. If you look at this example, imagine these are our course modules. This particular person making a search application has certain knowledge within MarkLogic they need to get their project working or to become viable and get working. At the same time, another team within the organization might actually have different needs, whether it be your ops team having to support these applications, or maybe it's a BAs, a set of analysts working on another part. The knowledge is different than you need up front. There may be some overlap, but certainly the whole point of the a la carte system and modules is to make sure that all those boxes that aren't filled in don't become noise and time consuming along the way. I see a chat thing. Should I be looking at that? I don't know how to look at those things. So sorry about that. I'm going to ignore the chat thing. Moving on.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll look at it.
Thank you. So very quickly, how does this happen? So the intention is that you actually choose. We talked about this already. We meet and we choose what your team needs to learn. And we put aside what you don't need to learn. And we might have a backlog of things that you would learn separately. The next part is you would actually prepare. This is important. We're talking about success. The preparation we're talking about is going back and being prepared in the book of record information. We've got quite a bit of work curated on this. This has to do with learning in advance the stuff that will help you on the hands-on environment. An example of book of record, if you look at Search Developer's Guide, the Admin Guide, and all those, it's about 1,500 pages. One of our courses suggests that you read Chapter 5 of the Concept Guide, Chapter 3 of the Concept Guide, Search Developer's Guide, version Chapter 10, and Administering MarkLogic Chapters 24 and 25. So take that 1,500 pages and bring down the knowledge you need from the source, from the book of record, from MarkLogic, and have that in your mind prepared, because then you learn, you'll learn a lot more. So the learning and the learning side of it, basically, it's an online portal that we use, and the process is basically a combination of a little bit of learning, a little bit of presentation, going to a doing side, which is I'll go back to this slide in a little bit further. That's an important part. The apply is probably as important to us. We talk about making you absorb what you've learned and helping you absorb what you learn. After the learning sessions are over, the environment's still available to you. Your virtual machine is still available to you. We keep that open for an agreed amount of time, 4 days a week, longer if it's needed. And you keep learning. You can think of it as your area to keep trying to do what you're doing. Within that, we also reserve some hours to jump on board and help you again. If you're stuck, if we left something not quite covered during the training session, we want to go back and cover it, we'll log on and continue to help with you within the amount of hours. But the machine is there for you to continue to learn with. It's take the time, apply it, we learn, go wild, do what you need to, reach out when you need to. But that's not it. That's not the right way to leave you either. When we were doing the original learning sessions and we had the original training, there might have been some unanswered questions. There may be things that came up during helping someone during applying their knowledge session that actually they want to know a little more about. And that information might be better to share with the whole team. And perhaps there's new questions that people came up with when we went back to your organization and just started to apply there. So we actually come back and meet back in the classroom again to recap, finalize, really make sure that what you've intended to learn has been learned and absorbed. I'm going to switch back very quickly to those about the platform. I put these to the end with Marks just to keep things clean. On one level, just to be clear, it's an LMS, a learning management system like many others out there. You know, you get everyone logged on, working together. There's a library, there's whiteboard, there's presentations, all of that, and that's very important. But ideally, that's only enough to keep us focused on what we need to do. What you actually get with us is you actually get an entire VM set up for yourself. Everyone's VMs are identical. They're upgraded all the time as needed. We can put special software on to meet certain needs. Always upgraded with the latest version of MarkLogic, unless a client then says, but we're stuck on a certain version, we're locked into a certain version of MarkLogic. Well, we can also go back to that version as well, as long as that's available from as a viable version from MarkLogic. So we can mix and match these, but everyone's are the same. While learning, which is meant to be most of the time actually going in and applying, it is actually over the shoulder. We're there, big screen, watching everything that's going on, contacting you, logging on onto your machine, helping you out. And it's the same as an instructor, as close as you can get to an instructor walking through the classroom during that time. There are some tools that also allow us to understand how well you're engaged in it for the companies that might be interested in understanding all of that. But this is the type of tooling to make sure that, and our approach to make sure that you actually become viable up front with this. I'm just about done. A few notes before I continue here. That's the last part on the learning. And these two slides, although at the end, this is the environment that's available to you the entire time while you're learning. I do have a few quick additional notes before I finalize this. So on the learning platform and what we have under consultation, again, complement other partners of MarkLogic and providers. We also have the ability within the software to do other portals and subsections and whatnot. So it is possible to reuse that platform within an organization on purpose, so that we can further the knowledge. We can talk about that separately. And the final note that I have before closing is about our training process. It's really important to get this across. Training process does not negate the value of professional certification. You can find plenty of videos out there where I've talked about that before. I've been involved with it since the beginning. However, certification really takes time. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes knowledge, it takes discipline and experience. So it doesn't negate that purpose, but it gets you, and that's why we actually put the value first on being viable quickly. And that's why we didn't mention about training, and probably will not mention about training. Certification. Certification comes when you're ready for it. This is to make sure that you're actually getting the experience you need to become successful in what you're trying to do. And that is it. I feel like it wasn't terribly long. I didn't speak terribly fast. That's a success.
No, David, that was really, really good. Thank you very much. Yeah, we really like your approach to how you're teaching your customers MarkLogic and building on a strong foundation. And it's really impressive. So and as I mentioned earlier, please do check out David's LinkedIn. He posts a number of blogs and updates about MarkLogic features, which are also really good as a deeper dive into features as they're announced. So yeah, thank you very much, David. And Mortiz, we'll bring you back on for the Q&A, but you can join our colleague backstage for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm just going to introduce our upcoming events. We're just sorting out an issue with a technical issue with one of our speakers. So I'm just going to give you a quick preview of some of the events that are coming up. Next month, August, we've got our community event. So if you're not on holiday, it's actually August the 31st, I believe. Apologies, there's a typo on there. But we'll be previewing our AI and LLM events coming up in September. We've got a product management update on some of the new features in MarkLogic 11. And we've got a slot for a customer or a partner. If you've got a customer story you'd like to share, then please do reach out, and we'll fit you in the agenda. And if you've registered for this month, we'll also add you to the next month's webinar as well. So so you don't have to do that. We'll make sure that you get that in time. Then in September, we've got a special event which is around the convergence of AI and private data. So we're going to be showing you a demo of MarkLogic combined with some LLM technology, and how it can improve trustworthiness, as well as capture human subject matter expertise, reusable in a knowledge graph, and support LLMs with private knowledge, so proprietary data that you have in your business to make better decisions. You can sign up now using the QR code there, or go to our Bright Talk channel. There's actually a replay of it on the 21st as well, if you can't make it. So please feel free to sign up there. I think we've got a short poll that we've got coming up there. I'll get one of my, here we go. Just whilst we wait to see if we can get our technical issues sorted, we've just got a short poll with some questions on here about some upcoming content. Today's event, forgive us for the technical issues that we're having with one of our speakers, but we'd really love to know about your interest in some of the topics that we've got coming up. Also, we'd love to know what you would like to see, you know, outside of these topics that we're talking about here, what you'd like to see at our next events, as well as what we could do to improve our events. So, you know, what's the subject matter? Is there any post-event follow-up that you would like? During the post-event, we will be sending, like I say, a summary of this event with timestamps to the relevant sections, as well as any links that were mentioned throughout. So we'll make sure that we send you across Clever Llamas links, as well as some other things there as well. I can already see some popular answers for the semaphore and MarkLogic. So yes, that is already in the pipeline. You'll be pleased to know. Like I say, we're building that up as we get closer and closer throughout the year. So, right, unfortunately, I think we have lost one of our speakers, unfortunately, due to a technical issue with Zoom. Let me just double check. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So yes, unfortunately, it looks like we've lost one of our speakers. So like I say, we have all got this content coming up. We've got the AI and private data. We've got the Case Genie use case from the ICLR, semaphore and MarkLogic, so that combination between the two technologies, geospatial and MarkLogic, so the ability to do advanced geospatial queries within MarkLogic. And we've got the launch of our new community forum page and supporting efforts with that. We're really trying to give back to the community and trying to give you more tools to make it easier to get in contact with us, engage the way you want to engage with us, as well as giving you access to content you need in order to make you successful with MarkLogic. And that'll be all a part of the community forum that we've got coming up. So I will just end the poll there. What I will do is I'll bring back on our team from Clever Llamas. So if Clever Llamas could join me front of stage. If you've got any questions in the chat there, or if you want to answer private questions, you can answer directly to me or use the Q&A function. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, all of your questions and comments that you might have. So let me stop sharing my screen for a minute. There we go. And have we got the gentleman from Clever Llamas?
Unfortunately, we can't get Michael back.
Right.
So we're going to have to skip Michael this time. We're going to sort out the internet issues and get him back on for another event soon.
Okay, no problem at all. The gentleman joining us from Clever Llamas?
I will ask them. They probably had you on mute. Let me go and ask them.
No worries at all. First live event that we've had where we've lost a speaker. So I don't think that's 2 years and too many events to count. But forgive us on that one. We couldn't avoid it. Unfortunately, internet issues playing up there. I noticed that there's some questions about the content of the AI event. You go to our Bright Talk page, you'll be able to find information on that in more detail, as well as detail about the speakers. David and Mortiz, thank you very much for presenting today. I've got a couple of questions. What's the best way to start an engagement with you guys? What's the best way to contact you? Is it via your website, LinkedIn? What would be the best way to contact yourselves?
I suppose the easiest way would just be through email, or LinkedIn would work as well, of course. But on the website, most details are there. We've got some forms there for actually requesting some of the services. So that would be a good starting point, I would say.
Perfect. And that your website there is cleverllamas.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Correct.
And that's also where you guys have had the blogs as well, isn't it? Where you guys post your technical blogs.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Perfect. And then somebody was asking, what makes you decide what content to kind of build and what content to make ad hoc? What's the thought process behind?
You mean as far as the modules or
as far as the modules? Well, actually, the modules and then the sort of long form content that you do online as well.
Okay, well, to go on the course modules, it's pretty much they're breaking down. Remember this, the process we're talking about isn't new, and some people don't realize that I did this within consulting services as well within MarkLogic when I was there, and took that in from before that when we were converting quite a few people into MarkLogic at a company that Martin and I worked at years ago. So in that case, there it came early on about trying to find and bluntly put, we were getting people certified in 8 weeks because we actually went and picked out the really important things early on. So in that case, there, what makes us choose? That's why I did say it's fluid. I mean, there are some categories we're not doing. What we did is we went back and looked at personas. We have someone working with us that actually is helping on the content side. It's not just us. We have someone that's doing a lot of the research in the manual and saying, here's the 6 things that make sense. These are related. That sounds like it might be right. But we actually put on the head of a persona. And again, this part isn't new. Okay, if we were a Java developer integrating MarkLogic as a web application, one thing, as a search application, or if we're trying to integrate some sort of publishing system as helped with for many years in the Dutch government. Well, what exactly, you step back and say, what do you need for that? You need these 17 things. Great. Okay, well, what's the best way to put these together and teach them? So you start breaking it into smaller pieces. Our goal, our rule of thumb to finalize that part is every module, if you were to look at it on its own, think of it as about 4 hours. That's 4 hours. And during that 4 hours, it would be 20 minutes of discussing, 35, 40 minutes of doing, about 3 times within that hour. That's actually how the content is broken up in the background. So if you see, and that actually helps us because we do have some modules that we still think maybe are too long. If you find that there's 6 learning objectives, you say, and that's one of the tasks that we're given, Martin and I are given, someone says to us, of your learning objectives, prove to me, the person doing the content side, how can you teach that in 4 hours and how would you group that information together? So we get challenged in that way. And that's sometimes when we have more modules, it's like, well, you're right. We can't do those 11 things in the concept of breaking them into maybe 2 or 3 concepts every hour over 3 or 4 hours. So it's really, it is time consuming. It's granular work and it's challenging like that. We also try to make sure that there's overlap. That might sound strange as well. There is overlap because no one really needs 1. You need 3, 4, or 5. And so then there's the other round is, if I taught this, what else could you teach with that in a way that blends together? And then that's how you end up getting If I say one module in 4 hours, and if you take 4 modules, it's not 16 hours.
Yeah.
It's maybe a day or two. So it's really no fast process to that. We spend hours and hours on that and get challenged quite a bit when we have too many learning objectives in what is meant to be of our rule of thumb 4 hours.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it really does. Like I said, I just wanted to cover that off because it's MarkLogic is such a wide-ranging and versatile data platform with many different features in there. So it's just interesting to hear the thought processes, not just from our customers, but from our learning partners, our partners, about what features really interest them and what drives them to use the more advanced features within the platform as well.
Think about MarkLogic's own guides. Now they're dense. We know for a fact they're very dense. And if you look at Search Developer's Guide, but if you start reading it though, if you step back and read Search Developer's Guide, yeah, I've read them all the way through because that's evening reading for me, I guess. It still says, hey, wait a minute. Here, go to the administrator. You need to learn about indexing. Go to the administration guide, chapter 6, and then from there it says go to this guide, chapter this. It's the same process. It's just, you just break it down. And that the sample I gave was a real sample. I took it from one of the syllabus of basically 3 guides or 3 documentations from MarkLogic, more or less a chapter each. To cherry pick it. You mentioned about the training material online. Well, that's not training material online. The stuff we write. I wish we had more time. We've also started doing some videos and stuff, but you just have to choose. So where does the stuff come online that you see now? Well, most of that was MarkLogic 11. We ripped MarkLogic 11 apart. So there'll always be the case with, and this is not new. Again, we've done that since MarkLogic 7 of getting a team together and really pulling the release apart. That's where a lot of this content comes from. It comes from everyday experiences. It comes from requests. And some of them come from answering something on Stack Overflow and thinking, that's an interesting answer. And if I'm writing in 3 or 4 paragraphs here, there's probably a topic that needs to be done. What Moritz and I discussed a month ago, and I've just got a few drafts on there, is actually more like toolkit ones, trying to, on the community side, toolkits of, hey, we have some tips and tricks, things that make our life easy every day. And so we started to offer some of those as well along those lines.
Yeah, items that feel natural to us that we do on a daily basis, or that you get back from every single client, like, hey, how do I do this or that? And then at some point you're so used to them that you don't even think about them. And then at some point we think, hey, but it is actually a good one for an article because it will help a lot of
very much so,
junior developers or even some meteors in that sense.
It like I say, I really find it interesting, like I say, because it just puts it into context. The features that get put into context, they get examples of how they can be applied, and they're very easy to understand, even from a layperson such as myself. So it's really good. We're going to wrap up now, just because, like I say, we had those technical issues. I really want to thank David and Moritz for putting the time in to present to the community. If you want to get in contact with them, like I say, visit their website, contact them on LinkedIn. If you can't find that, then give us a shout at CSM at MarkLogic or .com. That should still work for now. We'll be changing it shortly to this. But we're really looking forward to seeing what you guys do. And I'm sure you'll be working with more of our customers going forward. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers,
thank
guys.
you.
Thanks everybody for joining today, and we'll see you next month.